$8.7 million. Max, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think the Cowboys are going to franchise tag Dak Prescott once again, or will they reach a long-term deal?
No, they're going to reach a long-term deal, I believe, and I'll tell you why. The NFL is set up in the following way. You are looking for a quarterback. You must find a franchise quarterback. If you want to compete for a Super Bowl year in and year out, you must have a franchise quarterback. The quarterback position has been made so important that for the first time in the history of the NFL, we're seeing maybe the quarterback is even more important than the coach. I don't think that's ever happened before, league-wide. Maybe certain quarterbacks have the same kind of power that NBA stars have, and they can dictate terms to teams in the middle of a deal if they're guaranteed money, even when it's a cap hit to the team, and decide where they're going to play. This is the first time we've even ever contemplated that. So that is let's establish the quarterback position is everything. Now, the question is simply, once you've found the quarterback, how are you going to pay him? A franchise quarterback getting paid at the top of the market is now making minimum high 30s. If your deal is coming up now and you're considered a top of the market quarterback, you are going to make high 30s. The franchise tag values you that way. It says average of the top 5. So Dak is already being paid per year like he's elite. What's been the hesitancy with the Cowboys paying Dak? I think because they rightfully look at Dak and go, well, we don't know if he's actually elite. We think he's on his way. He's very good, maybe on his way to great, but he's not great yet. So why should we pay him as though he's great? It's going to handcuff us in terms of what we can do with the rest of the team. And unless you're super great, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, you can't make up for the rest of the team. Even then, it's hard to make up if you have real deficiencies all over the team because you've paid the quarterback. So I understand the hesitancy, but at a certain point, we're now at the moment of truth. The $37 million is going to count against the cap fully this year if they franchise him. Next year, it'll be 50-something. Now they have no choice. Stephen A., their choice is as follows. Either you found your franchise quarterback and it's time to pay him, maybe even overpay him, or you don't have a quarterback. Which one is it, Dallas? I think once you have a quarterback, you ain't letting him walk out the door. They're going to give him a long-term deal.
I disagree with you. I'm going to go the franchise route. But it's not because I think that you're wrong about what you're seeing theoretically. I think what you're missing, Max, is that you're leaning on the intelligence and the absence of stubbornness by Jerry Jones. That's what this comes down to. Logically, Spot Kellerman is at it again, right on the money. Yeah, logically, you're absolutely correct. I mean, I don't know why, as Captain Kirk would say, but it's true. Logic, Spot Kellerman is at it again. But we can't ignore the stubbornness of Jerry Jones. The fact that, again, I'm going to say this until the cows come home. Here's the deal. Why this guy? If it were Tony Romo, if it were anybody else, you got to believe a deal would have been done already. This dude has been stubborn when it has come to Dak Prescott from day one. He was stubborn when he arrived. He was stubborn, because remember, at Mississippi State, I forgot what transgression he got into or whatever. But talent-wise, Dak Prescott wasn't some fourth-round pick. He was worthy of being picked earlier, but that did not happen. Jerry Jones grabs him in the 4th round. Then you get him there, and he's balling lights out in the preseason. You're still reluctant to handle the reins. Tony Romo got back issues, contemplating retirement. Still, you stubborn. You holding out. Then even after Tony Romo was pretty much done, what do? You still reluctant to hand the reins to Dak Prescott. He's the guy you leaned on because you had no choice, but then you didn't want to give him that love, all right? And then one year after another comes about, he performs, he plays lights out. He plays lights out against Aaron Rodgers in the postseason, even though they ended up losing that game because that's a terrific pass down the left sideline. What do? You sit up there and you still say, all right, he's all right. Okay, yeah, we like him. We'll see. That has been the mentality of Jerry Jones since the moment Dak Prescott arrived. And now Dak Prescott is like, hell with you. You gave everybody else their market value, gave it to the offensive line, gave it to Ezekiel Elliott, gave it to Amari Cooper, gave it to Jalen Smith. The list goes on and on. But me, you want to sit up there and talk to me about what I deserve in terms of market value. Then the money is settled, according to the reports, because we haven't heard from Jerry or Dak specifically on this, but according to the reports, the money is not even an issue anymore. Oh, it's the years. Now, if you are an owner, that's in your 50s or 60s, and you see an abundant, a long future ahead of you, even though tomorrow is not promised. You still have that mentality. That's different. Jerry Jones is on the record. I ain't getting any younger. My best days are behind me. I'm not that young spring chicken I used to be. The urgency of now is here. And you sweating 5 years that you want him on lockdown instead of the 4 that he wanted at the time. And now he's at the number 3 because clearly he's looking to be a free agent in 3 years. And he always had that targeted time slot. You're Jerry Jones. Why would you do this? And so a lot of it, so much of it doesn't make sense, Max, that when you sit here and you talk about how you think and you break it down about how Jerry Jones ultimately will come to his senses and sign this guy. My problem is you could have came to your senses a year ago. You could have came to your senses 2 years ago. You religiously have refused to do it. We don't know the explanation as to why that is. It doesn't appear to make much business sense. Doesn't appear to make much sense to somebody who's looking at his own mortality. And I'm talking literally mortality, not football mortality. I'm talking about Jerry Jones' mortality. And still, you playing hardball. Doesn't make sense.
Well,
and that's what you're relying on. I'm not relying on that.
Let me say, you're being quite logical, Captain.
Yeah, thank you so
much.
But
I'll say this. His stubbornness, there's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. Jerry's being stubborn. Yeah. I don't get the sense that Jerry became a billionaire by the margins. Some people do it on every margin and every little thing. They make the little profit adds up. They're very, very careful. I get the sense that Jerry Jones became a billionaire because he has a big imagination. Stephen A., look at the stadium in Dallas. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Jerry Jones has been on the record saying, every one of my best deals, I overpaid. At the time, they said I overpaid. So I think the question is, given what you just said, I think that's legit. There's something more, like there's a stubbornness going on. Does Jerry Jones have the ego to say that he lost, to admit defeat? Because there are some guys who can't do that. Like, for example, Dan Snyder strikes me as the type, the Washington owner, who has a very hard time admitting, fine, I was wrong. I made a mistake. I was beaten, which is why it took so long to change the name. Finally, at the 11th hour, during a global pandemic and civil unrest, finally, he changes the name. Not even at the 11th hour, at the 13th hour, it's past due. Jerry Jones strikes me as the type who's going to be able to say at the 11th hour, okay, he won this one. And do you know why, in this case especially? Not just that I think his ego can handle it, because as soon as he admits he loses, he wins. The moment he's like, he beat me, he's got his quarterback. Done. He wins in that moment. And I think as the clock is ticking, how many hours are we away now? They're going to get something done.
I hope you're right. I don't see it. I really don't.
Well, what's great about this is there's an actual answer. We're going to find out very, very soon.
We will find out very soon. The deadline is tomorrow, again, 4 p.m. And really, you look at the situation at the other team in Texas with Deshaun Watson, completely opposite. But when you compare the two quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson and Dak Prescott, they both have the exact same total QBR in their careers. They're both in their mid to late 20s. Both have one Pro Bowl under their belt or multiple Pro Bowls under their belts and one playoff win. So it's an interesting note to take, especially with the deadline coming up this quickly. Okay, guys, well, we got to go, but guess who's coming?